Oh, there he goes. Mr. Man with the angel wings. Yeah, oh Lord, he coming. There you go. Oh, sick with the drifts. Damn, bro. Oh, yeah. Oh, he's oh shit, oh man. Yo, man, I got an Xbox. Fully tricked out and drippy, too. With the hacker mods and the HDMI out and the transparent green. It bangs. And you know me. I'm a 100% hardcore gamer. A real gamer, not a fake gamer. Fake gamers get the acid pit. So that's what the Xbox boot up is made out of. So I have to check out all the bona fide classics right away. Had to hit up Drake of the 99 Dragons, the rare game that's pretty much exactly as bad as they say it is, but in that also incredibly funny. The way you just take off, arms flailing while skirting like it ain't shit with controls twitchier than an insert joke comparison is really entertaining to me. And of course I also had to hit up Dino Crisis 3, baby! A title that, despite me being a fan of the series, having even played the little-known Dino Stalker, have heard very little about. I mean, it's never been re-released, not on backwards compad or anywhere else. The PS2 port was capped in the knee before it would even fully start development. Callbacks to the series and other games really only acknowledge one or two, and Capcom has outright rejected pitches to have the series return several times. It killed the franchise and has pretty much never been acknowledged much of anywhere since. Even in a fan capacity, there ain't that much coverage. It's wild, and leads a person to think that maybe Capcom just sorta wanted to sweep this game under the acid pit. And playing it, I very soon found out why, as it's a camera angles Capcom game, which at the time were going out of style for a little bit. Not that I dislike it at all, but just trend-wise, right? And then also it being one without tank controls and none of the slow methodicalness of a Resident Evil. It's a high-octane, big boostin', fast-shootin', rootin'-tootin' action game where your aim, the positioning of you as opposed to your enemies, and the directions that you're holding on the analog sticks in regards to walking are almost always in disagreement with the camera that, due to this game not having pre-renders, pans, cuts, and swaps all over the shop. Jumping distances, walking tight platforms, dodging lasers, and quickly navigating winding rooms. It's all shit that the game expects you to do, but doesn't quite offer you the handling capable of doing so optimally. Look at how disorientating that cut was on landing. For a sec, I thought I'd somehow ended up back where I jumped from. It's quite fucky, gonna be honest. After that, the reflective techniques that they used that scroll an image of the area over the textures on the walls relative to the camera to make him appear as glossy, aka a render texture that in this case is laid on so thickly that it almost feels as if the geometry warps around you, which when paired with the frequently distant angles and the already hard to see shadow dot below your character makes gauging depth a fat case of fuck, provided you can even see anything, with the camera often facing forwards towards said character and not backwards towards where you're going. So on the other hand, the base gun has infinite ammo, the boost is pretty fun to use and does make escaping enemies more doable than it would be otherwise. There's also cool spread weapons too, even if those do have limited usages, and much like RE4 it has a shop so health items can be stocked. It's not as if DC3 wasn't designed to be an action game. 2 already went in that direction and in my opinion was far, far better off for it than its predecessor, and 3 does continue that idea. Besides, it's a game about cyborg zombie dinosaurs. Shit kinda bangs on the low regardless of jank and pacing flow, though regardless, this was not what anyone was looking for in 2003, and where it could have done okay on a system that still had a large install base for games like these, i.e. the PS2, it came out on the original Xbox. A console that wasn't selling quite as well, and when it was primarily the people who got it for Halo and sports games. So, in that, it's decently emblematic of the obscurer side of the original Xbox due to it being so noticeably tucked away from regular obscure games discussions one might see on the internet. It's not on tier with Clock Tower 3 or Haunting Ground. Mainly because it's kind of painful to play, though it was very ahead of its time stylistically. The jank, the glossy reflective base, the gray everywhere, the more boring looking military pro tags, and the slim, sleek and crispy font and futuristic UI design. Dare I say it, this is a PS3 aesthetic future. Game released a good 3 years early, which wasn't even that rare on the system either, I feel. Oh, even Dead or Alive 3 has shiny wood! But it's seeing graphics like these pushed on the 6th gen console that also boasts this shit that really highlights I don't know, something. As you may have noticed, Innocent Tears also ain't exactly your average OG Xbox game. It's not unexplainably pretty or high poly. It's not filled with manly guns, action, or sports, nor is it a Sega game. It is even more emblematic of the obscurer side of the OG Xbox, being that it's Japan only, and JP only OG Xbox games were a fucking anomaly. For example, just look at this one graphically. Model-wise, it has the makeups of a PS1 game, but then none of it jitters, and some of the textures in the background got that smear about them, so maybe more like N64? Though, it ain't at all blurry, so really, rather than an Xbox game, this looks like a PS1 game ported to the N64, then ported to the Dreamcast, but then that died, Xbox. And I just so happened to have found some images from a Japanese Dreamcast magazine marketing the game too, so this very well may have been almost exactly what happened. The JP-only Xbox games weren't like the other games of their time. They weren't played by much of anyone, were thus made with no real target audience in mind, and would therefore end up being weird low-budget experiments, post-Dreamcast games, funky, almost handheld-like spin-offs, and whatever the hell Innocent Tears actually is. I mean, if it's that cool looking, you bet I'ma press that button. Though, press a button. Which one? It's a tactical JRPG with VN bits in between. The world is a desolate post-apocalypse. People done got angel wings as they are fallen angels fighting the angels in a setting and plot that only the early 2000s could produce. I mean, there's goddamn poetry on the title screen, as well as sad big-eyed anime bitches with giant chokers, and this bookcase looks like someone photoshopped it into the background drawing, and sometimes that is okay. Also, listen to this music. Listen to this music and how it sounds when shown along its menus and title cards. Innocent Tears has Tour of the Soul. It's got a heap of 2000s Visual K, edgy fan art, decaying rose, Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta blingy energy to boot too. Dojin vibes. Considering I don't recognize any of the cool logos pre-title screen, I must say that might mostly be the case as well. Certainly very low budge. Like, don't blame me if hours into this game everyone suddenly starts fucking. With art like this, it could happen. Generally, though, it's just about these kids being sad and reminiscing in their war-torn town, talking about their feelings and the past and their feelings, but then some troublemakers come along upon which battle must be done. Sad of the North Star. Emo no Ken. Obviously, there's only so much I can comment on not being able to read Japanese and only being able to understand it audibly a little, but holy shit, it's got a story of the ass. Hella dialogue, hella characters, hella drama, and hella 1,000-yard staring and musing, and of course this setting would have plenty to it too, and it's all voiced.
早くライブ始めろって言ってんだよ。まだ客が足りん。満席だよ。あと一人だ。もうすぐ来る。今日はその人のために歌うんだ。来ないうちは始められん。
Combat, though, is horrifically slow, even for the genre, but I also think that that's very fucking funny. Something about this over-the-top 80s cock rock, butt rock, scoring these grit-based skunk models slowly hovering towards each other and almost always missing unless it's you attacking goddamn owns. Plus, it's got some interesting stuff going on with how it handles sides and movement that really makes the player consider their position. I say this as if all tactics games don't work that way, but I mean, it's not top-down at all. You're in the fray, so the spatial awareness hits different, and I just like that it has a bunch of explosive barrels, okay? Shut the fuck up! There's legit something really satisfying about how plotting it all feels. The planning is like scheming, strutting, tank turning. It's surprisingly rewarding to blast your way through these copy-pasted angel dudes over and over. Not to mention that you also fight an actual tank at one point, and I fucked a bitch up by making a car drop onto her, and you can even speed the game up with the hit of a button, so the slowness ain't a problem either way. So yeah, game's pretty cool. Had this release in English, or maybe even just not only on the Xbox, I totes could have seen this be some cool edgy hidden gem making the rounds on Tumblr and DeviantArt, in the same circles where teens started hushed toning about the SMT series. Yo, do you know about this cool JRPG with the angel wings and this girl with 2 eye colors and there's blood on the cover art and metal music? Whoa! Same way that I'm about to be like, hey, psst, yo, you want some nude? Yeah, this game, it's called Nude. So here's a bit of an issue. Nude is essentially anime girl Seaman. Xbox OG is often called the Dreamcast 2, and shit like this is why. However, just like the Seaman demon himself, Nude requires a microphone for controller. I don't have that microphone, so I bought that microphone. But then shipping went fuck. Package is not yet received or processed, delivered on the 22th of December. I don't have it, I don't know where it is, or what it's doing, but I've had shit like this happen before, and it often just means that the package will appear randomly at some mysterious point this year. And I didn't really want to postpone the video like that. Even if I did pick up a new one, it could still take weeks due to how international shipping is these days, so no. Shoutouts to Vice the Determined 2 for letting me steal their gameplay without asking though. Hell yeah. Even without all of this mishap though, it do be a Japanese game and I don't speak Japanese, so not sure if I could have been able to talk to this robo girl either way. But hey, maybe I can get past the title screen for some other videos someday, and it does look super cool. I just love how slightly uncannily lit the room she's in is, and how her being a robot excuses any and all awkwardness you'd otherwise have had dealt with. Probably why Seaman is a Seaman too, and not a man-man. Realistically though, I kinda just wanted to play this because of the box art, as both versions of it fucking bang! Got this dope back-facing render with all the cables poking out looking Genova robot as heck, on a clean white background with cool blue future text aligning well with the implied cable directions. The Alt 1 has bright white wireframes framing face, going for this cleaner, prettier look. Not sure if either really gives off the idea of anime girl Seaman very well, but then, other than her having her fling her own shit at you, what would? Similarly, I randomly found the box art for Deno Tyson Drone Z the other day, which also had a cool future robo lady on it with a 90s render sheen and wireframes, and luckily, this game I can play. If it didn't get stuck on a black screen after hitting start. That sucks. Would have been an interesting one to cover too, as it's all in English and not actually Japanese. It's Italian, far as I can tell, and was made as a benchmark to test NVIDIA graphics cards, which then was made into a full game going to release on the Dreamcast, but promptly moved to the Xbox for obvious reasons. Picked up by a Japanese publisher who only released it in their own territory, and then way later also released on PC, but only in Russia. I guess that technically doesn't make it Japan only, but I mean, goddamn man, how could I not bring this shit up? That is weird ass. But also, that's all I can say about it now, as sometimes ROM dump go bad. Now, reason I brought up Dino Crisis 3 earlier was essentially to highlight the unique skunk that Japanese devs' output on Xbox typically carried. And not because I actually scrapped the video on Dino Crisis 3 and simply repurposed my notes and footage. Different from the PS2 or GameCube skunk, as it showed a sign of symptoms we'd see later with clearer pushes towards American appeal. Dino Crisis 3's cutscenes and its character designs, if not for sounding very, very Capcom, could certainly fool one into thinking that this wasn't a Japanese-made game. Same way Kakuto Chojin looked like a sweaty back alley neon-laden What If Need for Speed Underground 2 was a fighting game instead of Dream Factory's usual output of squares and Toriyamas. Or how Genki made a racing game that was as much an attempt at a Hollywood action movie as it was a game. Namco's Breakdown also was in fucking first person and not in that Vienny sense, which is super hella rare, and FromSoft made a game where you actually played as the US president.
Okay, let's party!
Basically, while the GameCube was filled with cuter, chunkier looking, chibier games like Virtua Quest or Gotcha Force, and the PS2 was flooded with JRPGs and many very distinctly Japanese games, the Xbox had muzzle flash.
What a thrill.
No, this is not a Tom Clancy or SOCOM game. No, it's not made by some Eurojank studio. This is, in fact, a Japanese game released only to a Japanese market. As to why, then it's a military first and third person shooter, nobody knows. Much as it tries, though, the cutscenes, writing, and voice acting give its hand away pretty quickly.
Are you really going down there by yourself?
You see anyone else with me?
Maybe you're the only one crazy enough to make the trip. You know, it's nothing but terrorist and military freaks down there.
Well, I won't be shaking hands and exchanging business cards.
Muzzle Flash is about a grizzled, retired resistance leader called
Spencer, check the map. There is enemy troop around you. It is dangerous to attack from the front. You may shoot the target without notice. If you head left and go around the mountain.
And thus he goes to kill the terrorists and reclaim his homeland in the name of the other land threatening his homeland. And it's a stealth game primarily.
Spencer,
I will often send the important message to you. Be sure you are safe when you read this message. Our object is to find the powder storage of the enemy. As you know, any reinforcement can't be sent to you. Take the enemy's weapon and ammunition by force for use. Hell yeah. Here's the thing, right? Jank stealth can be amongst the worst shits to have to play through. Anyone who's ever played any game with a quickly whipped up sneaking segment can probably relate to this. However, despite how eldritch the game might present itself, it legit controls pretty well. Good acceleration on the analogs for walking and camera, intuitive usage of the triggers and D-pad for crouching and aiming and shooting, and I dig how it frames scopes in a little window rather than having them take up the whole screen. Extra reload, hold Y to bring up your menu so you can switch on the fly weapon wheel style, it just works. Stuff like the aim window defo adds some skunkitude that a Western-made shooter likely wouldn't have that way, but all in all they did their homework and made something fairly traditionally controlling overall compared to the Metal Gear's winbacks and RE4s of its time. That's a good start, I suppose, and your enemies also react in neat ways. Shoot one guy and the others will go prone in alert or even radio for backup. It's not as arcadey as MGS with the vision cones, it's really about monitoring your environments and who is where and when, as bullets do be very lethal. Enemies go out in one, and while you can tank a few, it's still best not to get directly involved as the game will often tell you to. Essentially, it has the baseline makings of an actually good stealth action game. You know, until you realize that the maps are all absurdly huge with no checkpoints and that enemies can spot you from 1,000,000,000 miles away and possibly through geometry, and will essentially alert this entire battlefield map's worth of fuckers to your exact location, thus making it a game of pretty much running for your life the whole time rather than actually engaging in its mechanics unless you absolutely have to. I'm getting Left Alive flashbacks here.
This is just the beginning.
Well, the game sorta is what it is. What's probably more interesting about it is the stuff that surrounds it. For one, a big mystery here is who even made this. There's next to no sources online, no wiki, no Moby Games, no nothing. The opening lists Beyond Interactive, who have worked on El Shaddai and Devil's Third, so about that does feel right, but in looking them up I found zero ties to this game. Then it also credits Polygon Magic, who made Galarians and Silent Hill the Arcade, which, that also feels very right. But same thing here is that from looking into them, I could find no traces to this game either. The only other company name at the start that does acknowledge its existence is Victor Interactive Software, who are a publisher. A subsidiary of Victor Entertainment, who also assisted in working on Tulip, so... oh no. I'm gonna have to add Muzzle Flash to the chart, am I? Though yeah, given that Victor's a publisher and Beyond only does shadow company-like ports and side modes, I'm gonna hand this wonderful dub to Polygon Magic. Yay! They made Shaolin for the PS1 and are hence fully within the capabilities of Kuso posting this epically. And for 2, this game was a fucking bitch to get running. Vim's Lair download wouldn't run, Internet Archive download wouldn't run, burned to DVD or straight from the HDD, FTP or ripped from DVD. In all cases, it would crash on the title screen. And so I bought a legit fucking copy. This video would have been out 2 weeks ago if I hadn't, only for that to freeze on the fucking title screen too. Anyway, the one gameplay video of this on YouTube, as according to the title, is run off a 360, and so I had to drag this fat fucking bitch out of the closet to try and play it on there. But the 360 is region locked.
Why is it so big?
I have no idea why this game refuses to play on the console it was designed for, but let that be a showcase of its mysterious quality. In any case, through some sort of voodoo magic, the Zemu emulator was able to get the game past the title screen, and that's how you've been seeing this footage so far. Is it kinda messed up that I spent nearly 1,000 dolans on a fully tricked out and modded Xbox only to have to resort to an emulator? Yes. Yes, it is. You know, as great as cyborg zombie dinosaurs are, Dino Crisis 3 ain't even the best Japanese dinosaur game on Xbox. Yeah, this is the real JP-only Dino game on OG XP. Was localized into English, fully voiced, pressed to discs, shipped out to outlets for review, and then cancelled last minute. Thought lost to the ages, only to resurface last year. As the name Dinosaur Hunting implies, it's a game about hunting dinosaurs. Said to be similar to Monster Hunter by people who aren't me, as what I'm saying is that this doesn't have 5-hour-long boss fights. It's actually about the capital H hunt. Fast sneaking, zip and zooming, camera locking as you scope out footprints and giant pieces of shit, taking in your surroundings through visually analyzing cues and keeping an ear out for the environment. Though, that don't mean that the game is slow. I was expecting more MGS3 vibes, but it has constant BGM, which really frames the game in a different way. And as I alluded to, you move hella quickly. You do be hiding in bushes, but you're also fast rolling away from shit, and even then the bush sitting isn't quiet, stealthy observation, it's like a tense, sweat beads down face lying and hiding of a big dino beastie. Dinosaur located. DH has a great control scheme very much suited for this quick style of play. Holding down the left trigger locks the camera either on a nearby target or just in the facing direction, and then the right trigger does shoot, either with the default gun by doing it as is, or with the shotgun or rifle by holding down either X or Y. No menus, no swapping weapons with D-pads, just bam! Gun right there, right ready to go. All the while, you can keep strafing, running and rolling, same way you use items by using those funky black and white buttons that the Xbox has. Its whole control scheme stands in service of keeping the player moving and not interrupting the action. Which is why there's also no stamina mechanics or hunger bars or bone breakages or resting and sleeping. Had this come out like 10 years earlier, it totes woulda, but something about this simplicity adds hellily to the raw, fast-paced, high-speed walking, arcadey feel that I wouldn't want it any other way. Probably good that it's fast too, as the game runs on a timer. A very liberal one, granted, often multiple hours, but still, you don't want to fuck around too much. This ain't your dad's stealth game, it's not a stealth game at all. Telling the story of some guy and his dog who hunts dinosaurs. There's this cool airship lady who's all like, hunt this one, and then he's all like, okay, and then you get the mission screen telling you, hunt this one, and then you can tweak your loadout a little and stock up on shit using the money earned by killing dinos, main or side, and then also go, okay. Oh, this menu is always backtrackable given that this screen is in your tent camp. You see, it ain't just mission-based, it's also level-based, and each hunt has its own map, with timer and unique wildlife, landscapes, and stories to tell. As you're exploring and hunting, you'll find traces of other hunter crews with clues or messages or supplies. There's also radio calls with cries for help sometimes too. Basically, there's always a lot going on around you and shit to do. The maps really breathe and live that way. Things jumping out of the bushes or events happening far away. Plenty of flora and fauna and even dinosaurs that do just be chillin'. They aren't enemies per se. Like, you are here to stun him and shit, but I did very much feel like I was intruding and hunting rather than me also being hunted or defending myself. Sometimes, maybe it is best to simply leave a critter be, especially considering that if you do manage to piss them off, they may prove too powerful. This also means that you'll have to be cautious too, as awakening a sleeping giant by fucking with the surrounding small fry can be a very real possibility. Not to mention ammo being rather finite and having to take down something huge or simply gunning down every peaceful herbivore you come across can fuck you over big time later. It really creates the sense that these lands are bigger than just you and your objectives. This game has an arcadey, addictive, gamey feel to its overall gameplay for sure, but its presentation or attitude tell a different story that ain't all about you. For instance, when the music is intense or upbeat, it'll have this wonderment to it. This real sensation of awe at the locales and the giant beasties that dominate them. Shit hits an interesting dichotomy here between a beast too big to fuck with simply being there doing its own thing and you still being able to scan it and see the price that's on its head. Is it worth fucking with? Now or later? Or will you leave it alone? Though, then, the thing that you're supposed to kill, could the same not go for it? It's interesting, it's cool. Ain't exactly Shadow of the Colossus, but it's not as straightforward or dumb as a game as, say, those over-the-top Cabela hunting games are. Oh, that said, if a motherfucker is introduced with a cutscene and a boss title card, then I'm going to fuck it up! Though them doing me one is much more likely, as while these guys might appear slow and lumbering, they can and will charge, and they can and will stampede all over your tiny squishy ass. The land, the controller, whatever cockiness you may have had, all shake, tremble, and crumble in the presence of a big bitch like this. Large enough to even damage you when they fall over upon stun. And there's a lot to him too, boasting weak points, an arena that can be used to your or its advantage, i.e. through high ground or tree placements, and of course, while they may be big and strong, as even the baby-handed T-Rex shows, these dudes got hella design flaws that you can use against them. Staying at sides, knowing that they legs can't turn good, or shoot said legs to make them tumble, or just hitting them with a flash grenade, all to make that weak point more accessible. Which one will needeth to doeth stay on them toes, as by far the biggest thing about the combat is that you are fragile as glass. Even jobber dinos can do big damages, and health items aren't really in short supply, but using them in heat of battle ain't always possible, and money can be tight. In that way, the whole stage sort of stands in service of the boss fight, seeing as the actions that the player takes and the mistakes that they makes will come back to bite them in the end unless you take notes of the clues found throughout the stage regarding said boss dino and use the dino juice found while exploring to concoct special stun bullets specifically aimed at taking down the cluey in particular. This ain't always easy, granted, being that the one tricky thing about the controls is how the lock-on works. Very much so by design, I think, but your character's position and the camera's position don't always intuitively align, so then when you hit left trigger when your target ain't in camera view despite that being what you was turning to, characterilly, if you weren't because you were also dodging, then the camera will snap to whatever it was that your character was pointing to, thus getting you twist and turned on upside down. It's a little iffy, but again, not relevant to the situation at hand, as you aren't really in control. You're the one intruding on these dinos' business, and the game will make it very clear, tonally, controlnally, and level designally. Like, sometimes when you find a cave with bones out in front of it and hella corpses, it leads to exactly what you think it will. Oh! Maps are generally really great like that, providing many winding pathways and strategic blockages, but also cool loop-arounds like how the final area may link back up to the first so that one can nip on back to base real quick. But also how clues string you around with directions on footprints and through events and situations that you stumble onto along the way. It's exploratory, but also just guided, directed, and linear enough to keep up this constantly engaging feel. Nothing is never not happening. Always onto something, be it a trail to follow, or a beast to battle, or a jump to scare, or some items to find and combine, all accompanied by some excellently musky jungle atmospheres and comfy yet spooky music to tie it all together. This game fucking owns. It's legit really great. I mean, I guess this carries over the vibe pretty well. Also, free t-shirt! Root Turk online. So, here's a game that I can't really play all that well. SMT9, which is a baller-ass title, is an online Shin Megami Tensei spin-off. Of course, the online is mega dead now, and as SMT games tend to be, they sort of just let you dick around a lot, which works well enough when you can read what folks are saying, but I can't. However, what really strikes me about it is that it uses pre-rendered backgrounds. Those became rare this gen. Final Fantasy X had a few of them, RE Remake and Zero had many, as did the Shadow Hearts', but otherwise there ain't really much else, which is a shame cause with less compression needed on DVD, these fuckers can look cripsy, which they do here. There's a few angles where I wasn't even sure if shit was pre-rendered. It just looks that sharp looking next to the character models. But then you got this gorgeous CG lighting and it's like, yeah, pre-renders. Love the overall greenness the game has too. The clean, spacious, Jack Frosted stores soaked in a stylistic tint that spills out across all the hussy and bussy bitches on all four-ring city streets. Green menus, a cute little flower shop with the grainy green walls. I love him. And greenish lights peering through the highway underpass. Every single area in this game is rendered out in Xbox uniformity. It is the good Xbox experience, aka Gex.
I haven't seen blasts like this since taco night at James Earl Jones' house.
Another game that I feel like I should bring up or else people will get upset is Magatama. It is by far and away the most normal Japan-only Xbox game, as it's very standard issue stuff for its time. Positive connotation. Tenchu, Onimusha, Genji, Shinobito, it's a one of them. Old-timey Japan action game with spooky supernatural elements and lore with real-life historianisms, and it's quite good too. Combat exists out of swordplay and floaty, fishy demon buddy guy who can be launched at dudes when eye symbol during combo, and also big slow-mo AoE fucko mode. It's really simple, but something about how you monitor the eye thingy for proper fishy moments while keeping on striking and trying not to go off camera too much is decently engaging for how simple it is. And of course, you can unlock more abilities too, and the movement in general feels really nice with super swift dodging and high-speed running and classic crunchy sound effects. In a way, it reminds me of the Guy Savage dream from MGS3. Two swords, hordes of henchmen enemies waiting to get cutted down, and this weirdly creepy atmosphere weaving throughout it. Though not always, it's got big open plains too and friends who'll tag around, but generally, within the levels themselves, things get dark and linear. With invisible walls on Wazoo, bosses with straightforward patterns, and various unlockable enemies who either crawl out indefinitely or jump up out from off-screen for a good dicing. Magatama's rather side-scrolly in its design attitude, now that I think about it. Ain't just blasting on through type beat. Might not be all that remarkable, but still very fun. In that though, I'd say that this is a game that's really helped out by being on Xbox, and not just because the cutscenes look incredible for their time, but also because it's basic in a way where it would have just been sort of thrown onto the PS2 pile on PS2. Whereas now, it's like, yo, you heard of this Japanese action game on Xbox? I wonder what it's about. But the fact that it is more normal, and the fact that you likely already know about it, is the exact reason as to why I'm not especially interested in covering it more deeply. Because, I mean, you know, we got some shit to get to. Like, a fair amount of the Xbox's library was categorized by ports that showed that this console was slightly better than the others. For example, in Wrath of Cortex, Crash has fur now. Hell yeah. Oh, I see. Tony Xbox has realistic gamer grass. And generally, games simply looked sharper or had higher frame rates or had way faster loading times and even sometimes extra content like Silent Hill 2 and the Spider-Man 1 game. So, because of this, I think it's really fucking funny that Rent a Hero is the most straight up no bullshit Dreamcast port I have ever fucking seen. We got this Shenmue-ass town with these Sega-ass NPCs, these The Ring Terror's Realm as interiors, this Dreamcast-ass font, and this sadly not finished English localization. Yeah, much like Dinosaur Hunting, it was cancelled pre-release, but unlike it, wasn't entirely done. Sometimes text will spill out of text boxes, and at certain points the game will try to load characters that aren't of the alphabet variety, which will make it crash thusly, though only once in my case, as I was able to make it all the way to the end in English regardless. So, where you might see a ROM labeled as a prototype, don't assume that that means anything more than a few bugged item descriptions. The whole main quest line is in there, fully translated, and holy shit, what a quest line it is. I have about 100 different girlfriend pictures. I'm a pimp. Rent a Hero is, in essence, a JRPG in the same way that Shenmue or Tulip are JRPGs. You know, in the way that most people in the Anglo realm would call an adventure game. Going around town, talking to folks, doing quests as a hero for rent. Whether it be delivering love letters, standing in for a fortune-telling machine, or getting caught up in a gang war, it's all in a day's work in this wacky little world. Literally, your first quest is to simply have a chat with everyone in the room at your dumb dad's party, and it had me laughing pretty much right away. I'm Casey Hogan. I work for a computer company called Macrosoft. Right now, we're working on a software called Bimbos. It's almost complete. The entire narrative is set up from an escalation of events from this very point. You chat and then your dad's all like, "Quick John, the fat guy is eating all the food. Tell your mother to make more." And so you go to your mom and mom is all like, "There is no food." And so you go back to dad and then dad is all like, "Okay, order food." And so you go to order food, but the Penguin restaurant is closed. And so then you order from the sussy place who then claim they'll give you a special surprise. And then you go tell your dad that it costs 300 gold, but then dad is like, "No, not now, son, it is costume time." And then he goes downstairs and then you go downstairs and then the doorbell rings and then the food is there, but also the surprise. Which is a superhero costume that you put on to knock the shit out of your dad, making the delivery man be all like, "Oh yes, you're quite powerful now. Here, take my Creamcast. Use it to access the Sekka network so you can take on quests to earn money and pay rent because your dad is out of commission now, bitch." And before you with knowing, you're chilling with Sagata Sanshiro and race climbing ladders and doing whatever this is. And perchance getting caught up in a whole situation with this evil company controlling the town called Narco. Now, while I wouldn't normally lay down a summary of events like that, I deemed it important to do so here as to properly convey the pace, tone, and overall structure that this game will have. I.e., shit just happens to you. Every NPC, street corner, or door, a possible chain of events and situations. It's cute. If you, like me, love the wall market segment from Final Fantasy VII, or the little sub-stories about town in Sonic Adventure, or the hangoutable districts in Yakuza games, then you may be pleased to know that Rent a Hero is a title built around entirely and exactly that. It's him! Though it ain't all talk, we do have combat, being that your hero suit gives you powers and has a battery that runs out as shown by the BT bar, and you also have HP as shown by the HP bar. Because sometimes motherfuckers just have to get punched. Like your dad. Or girl harassing ruffians, or mechs blowing shit up. You know how it goes. And the combat, it kind of sucks. Luckily, there isn't much of it. The last 2 hours do become a bit grating due to many big fights and bosses, but for the vast majority, the game is all about hanging out. Certain points in the game will have random encounters, but it'll always be framed, so to say. Oh no, violent thugs have broken out in a gang war, and then until you take care of that, shit'll be endgame, but not otherwise. And the remaining combat is very story-focused and often only at the climax of a mission where it'll tend to fit hellily. It's also very simple. Basic combos, tiny bit of RPG stats and upgrades you can buy with the money that you earn, and obviously you need to keep those batteries topped up, but it's all very straightforward and not managey at all. Ain't a single point where I was ever tight on shit, so it's no biggie. Though... man... the actual fighting. It's not comparable to a game like Dynamite Cop or Yakuza 1, as it has the same no locking on stank and iffy camera, but it also has this annoying thing where dudes will get up with invincibility. I get that the game would have been Matt Stunlocky without it, but it still is. It's just slower stunlocking now, and that minor addition adds a surprising amount of tedium to it that luckily really only became an issue for me near the end, though it is still there forever present during the whole game. So thank fuck free that the rest of the game is blessed to heck. You are friends with my grandson, right? Sure. You came just to see me. I'm so grateful that I'd like you to have this money. Now that I think about it, I don't have a grandson. I feel very depressed now. I fucking adore the presentation. It has this top-down diorama angle similar to Tulip or Persona 4 that makes everything look tiny. All of the chunky little Dreamcast assets, the cartoony animations, the happy-go-fucky music, the game just oozes with adorable jaunts. When shit looks this cute, it's hard not to want to explore. When characters are this funny-looking, it's hard not to want to engage. Plus, the setting is great too, as it's America as viewed by the ever-knowledgeable Sega. So it's fat guy with the giant chicken leg and adults being like, be sure to say no to drugs, kid. America. And of course, there's burger places and shit and typical American vending machines on every street corner and kids who want to play sumo and no cars in these hella walkable Sega sunny blue sky suburbs where banks have posters saying beautiful money, true power and money, cosmic power. And the hotel is called Bling Bling. Thank you, 2000s. Thank you. But yeah, there's hella variety in zones. It's not a small game at all, from the cozy, quiet suburbs with punks and cute corner shops to the alleyway-ridden districts of arcades, antique stores, and restaurants. Or the cool blue tiles in the hospital, the funky, fleshed-out apartment building with all the wacky residents getting up to their bullshit. The lavish hotel with them classic 90s marble textures and chic carpets. The many homes of the many citizens, all stylized uniquely to them and their personalities. great. The hustlin', bustlin' big city streets with cars and the very American one-lane roads and the big hulking skyscrapers. Cool colors at the docks, very American offices, a shop called Goodbye and another called Shark Loan. It's America, but better than it is in real life. Walkable, always sunny, filled with wholesome adventures and cool stores that one can easily access with no parking lots, and even the cops are friendly. It's nice. Thank you, Sega. You fixed America. And I love the other varieties that these zones can bring just as much. There's some more repetitive quests, like simple fetch quests where you have to buy a list of things for someone, but it'll always at least be somewhat different, but those are A, often optional, and B, not at all the meat of the bulk. I love meat. I like pork, chicken, beef, fish, dog, cat, alligator, and mystery meat. It's good. This game sees you defusing bombs, going on huge detectivo quests, solving corporate meddling mysteries, interviewing employees, and taking in cues. It sees you beating up bank robbers and escorting girls to school while partaking in the classes. And it even sees you raiding an ancient tomb and beating up mummies. It just does shit and goes places for fun. Pretty confidently brandishing the qualities that makes a Yakuza side quests so very, very great. Recurring characters, raising stakes, evolving subplots and relationships. You see a kid going from being bullied to getting clobbered by robbers to ending up in the hospital, where then he'll meet a girl with a weak heart from another side quest who also ended up in the hospital, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of little plot lines like this that even evolve over the course of the throwaway missions too, because that kid won't like the hospital food, and so you get to go burger shopping for him and shit. And all of it contributes to the main plot and its very slowly unwinding mystery of competing heroes, gangs, and corporations. Because that very kid, one kid of many, also just so happens to be the son of the narco CEO, who's planning all kinds of stuff. See what I mean though? It's like if the Yakuza side quests were the main plot. It's generally quite a genius thing. The escalating of events I mentioned earlier. I don't think I've ever seen a game pull that before, aside from maybe Vampire the Masquerade, where the lines between main quests and side quests is so thin, anything can lead to anything. It's pretty damn great. I fucking adore this game. It embodies fun, sunny, funny, happy-go-lucky town times in a way that only Sega could. But where that normally serves as a backdrop, here it's the sole main focus. It's just a breezy good time. No punishments for fucking up. You can always try again, no biggie. The whole battery and HP thing is not at all a hassle to keep up, and things are super signposted in terms of what and where you have to do and be whenever you do, and the walking speed is quick and loading times is zippy, and shit's just paced hecking well. Many areas, fun dialogue that doesn't drone on, tons of characters but not in an overwhelming way, just all in a cute towny sort of way. It's so full of detail in general, really. Some unimportant pizza place could have just been a menu or a counter with some tables, GTA San Andreas style, but instead it's got these cute little tiles and NPCs with writing and its own little catchphrase and a kitchen for the chef and his cute little ingredients. And this isn't a copy-pasted environment. Every restaurant is its own whole unique vibe that way. Buildings will have basements or multiple floors and rooms that don't serve a plot purpose but are just there because they would be there. Bathrooms, kitchens, bedrooms, basements, jail cells, stuff like that. It feels to me like a very lovingly created game. They gave a shit about this town and understood the importance of fleshing it out for a game all about exploration. Guess it's no surprise from the company that also made Shenmue, but unlike Shenmue, this game isn't slow or tedious. It doesn't make you wait, it instead keeps shit going. It's sort of a middle ground, maybe, between it and Yakuza. Shenmue without the repetitive routine and waiting, and Yakuza without the huge main story, but more focused on what makes up the side quests. It's legit really, really cool. Though, just a shame about the combat, I guess. Whoa, hey, hold the fuck on. Is that the goddamn Roblox sound? Oh my god. And with that, we have reached the end of the video. Announcer voice. Some shit I didn't talk about. FromSoft's Thousand Land I'll hang on to for another video. And Meta Wolf Chaos ain't no longer JP only. Jockey's Road seems like prime mysterious horse games material to me. And Triangle again is a really cool high-budget visual novel that sadly seemed like a bit too much work to squeeze on in here pacing-wise. There's also hella shmups, but I couldn't give less of a fuck about those, I'm sorry. And otherwise, yeah, if Dino Crisis 3 has proven anything, it's that even games from underneath the acid pit can still be pretty fucking good. Nothing quite like the smell of gamers melting in the morning.